Shannon, thumbs up if you see the record button. Wonderful. Welcome everyone to our monthly E3 Parents Summit. The purpose of the E3 Summit is to engage with our families, equip them with the practical resources they can use, and empower them to succeed on their journey in independent study with the Blue Ridge Academy. My name is Anna Aguilar, and I'm one of 3 family liaisons here to support our families and staff at the Blue Ridge Academy. Please note that this session will be recorded for future viewing at the Blue Ridge Academy Parent Information Center, along with all of our other previously recorded sessions that you're welcome to view at a later time. To help our session run smoothly, we have a couple requests before we begin our presentation. Please keep your microphones muted and cameras off during the presentation. That helps to preserve bandwidth. There is a new feature at the bottom, which is a Q&A button, which is available also. If you have any questions that you'd like to add to the Q&A, we can go ahead and look at that at the end of our presentation with our presenter. This presentation aims to assist our Blue Ridge families in gaining a deeper understanding and discovering the power of compassionate communication and conflict resolution. Join us for an enlightening session where you'll gain invaluable skills for fostering understanding, harmony, and emotional well-being for your family. And we want to ensure that your child thrives in the best mental and emotional space for ultimate learning. Today, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Mrs. Sherry Armstrong. She is one of our very own Blue Ridge Academy homeschool teachers, and she is absolutely passionate about this subject and wants to share her passion with us and her knowledge and understanding in this subject. Take it away, Sherry. Oops, let me unmute you.
Very much. Not a great start, but that's okay. I am so happy to be back with the E3 Summit. Sorry, I have things popping up on my screen. And I'm so happy to be sharing about compassionate communication and conflict resolution. It is a passion for me, and it is a great series of tools and strategies that can help in any kind of communication, any kind of relationship. I've used this in classrooms. It's fantastic, but it's also really great just one-on-one. And in our homeschool environment, it can make a big difference. Okay, let me pull up my slides. There you go. Can you see that okay? There we go. All right, I've got my slides up. So today we are talking about compassionate communication and conflict resolution. This is for homeschool parents, students, and really anyone who wants to have effective communication in their lives, which I think is probably all of us. My name is Sherry Fuentes Armstrong. I am a Blue Ridge Academy HST. I've been teaching for about 13 years, and 10 of that, so most of it, has been as a homeschool supervising teacher. Previously, I believe it or not, in another life, I was a college administrator, and I've used these techniques effectively in all of my positions and definitely in the classroom and homeschool settings and with my own family. I sneak it in on them. Okay, oh, there we go. So the way that this kind of communication is often described is the language of life. So it's not just about one kind of communication. It's not just about one aim in communicating. It's about life in general. And when you really step back and think about communication, it is all about connection. Sometimes, I don't know about you, but me, sometimes when I communicate, I want to tell someone something. I want to get something. And that's not always the best way to communicate. Connecting with someone is the way to really, in the end, get what you need and hopefully help others get what they need as well. When we connect with each other, we share. It's not one-sided. It's a way of communicating where we all have our needs met. We empathize with ourselves and those we wish to connect with. This is really about taking into account your own feelings and needs as well as others. And this is a good one. We work toward outcomes that meet the needs of all involved. The best communication happens when we're not just trying to get what we want, when we're trying to communicate and connect and make sure everyone is getting their needs met. That sounds like a tall order, and sometimes it is, but it can be done. So compassionate communication is just really another way of saying nonviolent communication. And many of you have probably heard that term before. This is a way of communicating that was developed by Marshall Rosenberg. He was a clinical psychologist. He grew up in inner city Detroit and was faced with violence on all levels of his life. So that's what he went into as a profession and did a lot of research. And he was the founder of the Center for Nonviolent Communication, which is actually a huge organization. And there's some information in the resources that I'll put in the chat and that are at the end of this presentation about that organization. Nonviolent communication evolved from Dr. Rosenberg's quest to find a way of rapidly disseminating much needed peacemaking skills. The Center for Nonviolent Communication emerged out of the work he was doing with the civil rights activists in the early 1960s. During this period, he also mediated between rioting students and college administrators, and he worked to peacefully desegregate public schools in long segregated regions. So, as I go over these really few simple steps, and they seem like steps that are very well suited for one-on-one communication or communication in a small group. Please keep in mind that these ways of communicating have been used on really large scale problems and have been very effective. All right, so nonviolent communication, compassionate communication, which is used most effectively when in conflict. I shouldn't say that, used effectively in conflict, but it's great to use it at all times. It always starts with a foundation, and that foundation is respect and compassion. When I taught in the kindergarten classroom, my first days, some of the first things I talked about with these kids was respect and communication. And they seem like big concepts for 5- and 6-year-olds, but they caught on immediately. And this was the foundation for all of our learning throughout the school year. We could always come back to that thing we all knew and we all wanted for ourselves and for our group, which is respect and compassion. So one definition of respect is a feeling of deep admiration for someone or something elicited by their abilities, qualities, or achievements. The way I like to look at it is it's caring about someone and caring about what they have to say by listening in a way that they know you are listening. So that's active listening as we know it. So it's not just a matter of opening your ears. It's a matter of making sure with your whole body, with your eyes, that you're listening. And one thing that my kindergartners and all my students right now know, something that I always come back to as far as listening goes, is that we listen with our ears, eyes, and heart. That's a way of kind of putting it into a really easily understood way, especially for young kids. Are we listening with our ears? Yeah. Are we listening with our eyes? Yes. We're not looking around. And we're listening with our heart when that person really knows that we value what they say. Compassion is also another big part of it. sympathetic concern for others. So basically caring for others and for their feelings, and especially when they're down. It's a good time to be sharing and expressing compassion. So this process is, of course, used to express yourself to others. That's when we're communicating compassionately with someone, we want to express ourselves to them. We want to listen to them using this process, but we also want to listen to ourselves. That's part of communication that's often overlooked, because we may have feelings going on and thoughts going on and something we want in the communication. But if we stop and listen to ourselves, we can drill down to what is really needed, and it helps the whole flow go well for everyone involved. Okay, I'm going to jump into an example, and this has the steps of nonviolent communication or compassionate communication in it. But I want to talk about an example before we really go into those steps. So I know that I have been in situations throughout my life where I was in say a meeting with a bossy or domineering coworker. So this person's speaking over everybody else and maybe not saying things in a way that respects everyone in the group. So you might observe, oh, there's this person. We'll call her Jean. Jean is speaking over everyone, dominating the discussion. I know when I am in situations like that, I often have those feelings bubble up of frustration, for sure, sadness, even anger. And when I get past those first two things, I realize there's needs underneath. I need to be heard. Others need to be heard. We need to show care for each other. We need to have a diversity of opinions and that basic of respect. So often that observation and feeling, that's the only place we get. And those two things, the feelings and observations, get really mixed up, because I know my observation isn't always that separated from feelings. I often am just mad. I'm thinking, that person doesn't know how to talk in a meeting. That person doesn't know anything. Those feelings and thoughts, if that's what's in my head when I try to communicate, I'm probably not going to get very far. So once we go through the actual steps and we figure out our needs, we can make a request, not a demand. And I know this probably seems a little strange. How am I going to use this with my kid? But you'll see. Making demands of anyone doesn't always come out with the best outcome. But if we can make a connection, and if we can take action through a request, that can really turn the tables. We can say something like, I'm wondering if next time we can divide the time equally. Maybe we can set a timer and each of us participate in silent listening. That to me sounds better than your bossy shut up. I don't think that one works very well. And often when these are conflicts and they're frustrating, a great question to make connection is to say, how does it feel for you to hear what I'm saying? How is it for you? To show that compassion and care and get down to the bottom of it and help somebody see past their feelings to their needs. So these are the 4 steps of compassionate communication. The first thing you want to do, the first thing to do, is to try and observe the situation without the feeling part. So this is hard, because usually the first thing that pops up is the feelings. But if we observe without the feelings, instead of, I don't like her, she's bothering me, she's making me mad, take that out and say, what is happening? Describe it to yourself. Jean is talking over people and talking so much that others are not getting a chance. It kind of takes that feeling out, and it helps in the basis for what we may want to communicate. identify your feelings. It's easy to feel frustrated, feel like you're not being valued, that you aren't worthwhile, that this person doesn't care about what you have to say. Those are true feelings, and feelings are important. But not all of that is necessarily true. It's what I'm feeling, but it's not necessarily true. What of that can I put aside so that I can identify my needs? I need to be heard. I need to feel respected. I need to feel like my group is respected. I need to know that I'm getting the diversity of ideas that I want out of this group discussion. Once you have that in your head, as you can see, that's going to be an easier place to come from with a request. Can we figure out a way to make sure everyone is heard? That's really the request. And then you can go with, do we need a timer? Do we need a talking stick? Whatever we need to do. And that's a good point there too, is not always having the answer in your head. Come to the process with, where can we go to meet everyone's needs? How can we do this? What ideas do you have? And as I showed on that previous slide, if it's just not working, really good thing to do is to ask the person about their feelings and needs. How is this for you? Maybe they're mad. Okay, maybe we need a pause so that everybody can come to a place where they can work together. But the end process is always working towards meeting the needs of all of those involved. So if we switch over and we talk about our kids, I know when I think about working with my own son, I need to get stuff done. Well, I need him to get stuff done. I need to get this, this, and this done so we can go on to that, and that. I have had much better communication with him when I've thought about his needs as well. So let's look at that. The first thing we need to do, always, the first true step is pause. This is a life lesson I have learned that I use in all areas of my life. Pause. My life is much better when I pause. So there is a great pause that I do with students. And I've done this with kindergartners. I have done this with high school students. It's taking what I call quiet calm time. Now, I call this something a little bit different with older kids. You know, our stop time, our transition time. But with little kids, quiet calm time, I don't know why. It works very well. It's something that gets into their brain and they know exactly how to do it, all about it. So you can start the process of identifying feelings before there's a conflict. If you're taking time for something like a little pause in your daily routine, and you're identifying feelings in that moment, then when you have a conflict, this is already in place. And I have a little note on this slide. This is great for transitions. I use this at the beginning of every one of my TK through 8 Zoom classes. We always start with quiet calm time. And I explain what a transition is to a kindergartner, to any child. What is a transition? They should know that word, because if they know what that word is, then it helps you with transition. So I always say, transition is changing something. We're changing from what we were doing before to what we're going to do now, what we're going to do next. So they know, oh, we're doing quiet calm time. I'm going to stop thinking about that activity I was doing. Stop thinking about what I'm going to be doing later and focus on what I'm doing now. Now, it's not magic. That's hard for some kids to stop thinking about those things, but this is good practice to get them there. So I would love it if you would do this with me. Just takes a couple of minutes. This is exactly what I do. I say to my students, okay, let's have some quiet, calm time. We're going to be present in our bodies with our eyes closed. Bottom firmly in your seat. spine straight. Relax your shoulders. Relax your belly. Put your hands on your lap, relaxed, or on the table. Relax your eyelids and your jaw. Take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, in through your nose, and out through your mouth. Keep breathing like that and think about, how are you feeling right now? Any feeling is okay. Whatever you're feeling right now, not what you were feeling earlier today and not what you'll feel later, but right now. And when you're ready to share, open your eyes and look at me. I do that at the beginning of every class. I don't know if you did that, you can feel that you just feel different. You feel like you can put aside what you were doing and be present with what you're doing now. So that is the start of identifying feelings. So they get to share their feelings. Anything that they're feeling is okay. This is a great opportunity to help them define their feelings and really specify them a little bit more, because a lot of people think there's happy, sad, mad, and glad. There's a lot more than that. And the more detail they can get in their feelings, the easier it is for them to identify their needs. So if a student says they're sad, I have a tool right here that I use. These are called Grok cards. And I have these in the resources. I'm going to put them in the chat, the link for these. But these are fantastic. They're so simple, and I have used these for years. Just have a simple picture on them and the feeling. So if the child says they're sad, I say, oh, is this how you're feeling? Or maybe, are you feeling scared? Are you feeling confused? Maybe they're feeling calm, and the way that they can identify that is sad. Maybe they're tired. So there are all of these different cards that can be used for them to start thinking about feelings more deeply. And I find after a month or even less, kids, instead of saying sad, are saying, I feel lonely. I feel grumpy. That's just great to be able to get that a little more defined. Happy, maybe they're feeling cuddly or friendly or wild. That's a good one to identify. If your child's feeling wild, then the need is very different. So once those feelings are identified, we can go into needs. And this is a list of universal human needs. There are many different lists like this. This one's in the resources as well. But these great Grok cards also have needs cards, and they look a little different. But they go into all of these things that are way past shelter, food, safety. Those things are in here, but there's appreciation. There's to matter, to belong. These are absolute human needs. Freedom of choice, cooperation, to be heard and seen, honesty, trust, creativity. There are many, many different basic human needs in these cards. So what happens then? They realize, right now I need to be creative. I may not say it just like that, but if you see that, I don't know, maybe there's a way you can change the lesson you're working on from a worksheet to something creative. There are different ways that this can be responded to. But you can say, wow, you're feeling frustrated. maybe you need to be creative. What can we do together to figure out how we can meet your need of being creative and my need of making sure you have a good education by getting all this work done? So here's our distracted student. This is another example. What do we observe? Maybe the first thing that happens that we know something's wrong is we're frustrated, right? This child, I've got to get this done. I got to go grocery shopping. They might have this frustration coming up. But what we're observing is the child is being fidgety and whiny. What's up with that? Child's being fidgety and whiny. I'm frustrated. Not a good recipe for learning. What do I need? I need some cooperation from my daughter so that she can learn. Whoops, sorry. And I can get this lesson across to her. I also need respect. So what is the request that we can say? Okay, how do you feel right now? What's going on? I see you're fidgety and whiny. I don't want to do this. What do you need? I need to get my wiggles out. Possible? Here's some ideas. I'm wondering if we take a break, will you be able to learn with me? Or that doesn't work for you. I'm wondering if we can get this learning done, if we can get this worksheet done, we can get this activity done, then we can take a break. I know that with my son, there were times where it didn't go that way. There were times I got frustrated and I was like, we have to get this done. How can you act like this? You need the school to have a good future. If I'm doing that, generally doesn't work. This has a good possibility of working. He's much more open to me talking to him like this. And I love these suggestions, and this comes right from the Center for Nonviolent Communication. Starting a request with, I'm wondering, not do this, well, that's a demand. But, there are different ways we can express a request. But if we say, I'm wondering if this will work for you, I'm wondering if this will work for me, it is just a few words that can help a child, another adult, be open to what is being expressed. So this is an alternate order that I've been already speaking about in the previous slides. Usually for me, I have a feeling first. So kids definitely often are starting with a feeling. That feeling comes up and then they need to take a pause and observe and figure out where that feeling is coming from. Once they have their feeling, then they can start identifying needs. Wouldn't it be great to get a compassionate request from your child? And I know that this seems like a lot, but I have seen this in my classroom where I will have a child that's frustrated and they take a minute and then they say, Miss Sherry, can we do art? Maybe it's that simple. And then you can help them say, oh, what is it you need? I need a break from what we're doing. Can we do art? Oh, art would be great. Let's finish this and this and we'll go do art. It can make a huge difference. So here are some tips for success. This is a big one right here. When asking a student about their feelings or needs, pause. Give them lots of time to think. Silence actually works well. Silence works well when you're working with a child on math, on reading, when they're sounding out a word. Silence sometimes is awkward for adults or anyone, but it can be magical because it's not always awkward for our kids. So we keep that silence going. again, I've seen it in my classroom. Other kids sit and wait in silence while someone's thinking. It doesn't get awkward as often as you might think. And once it does get awkward, then you can, jump in and ease that thinking process. But definitely give kids enough time to think it out for themselves and be totally attentive during that process. When they're thinking about their feelings and needs, please do not be distracted. It's easy to start doing something else, but give them that listening, that respectful listening that they can feel, that they know you're there, and what they're about to say is important to you. So you have the patience for it, and you'll give them that attention. So if your student is distracted, wait patiently until they can be with you. This comes from a big part of my classroom management style. I always wait for the group to be totally with me, and I try and wait in silence. Once they are with me and the eyes are on me, I can feel it in my heart. And I practice that with my students so that they have that feeling too. They know when I'm really listening. And wait until you feel it. And what I say to them is, oh, I don't feel it yet. Can I have your full attention? And it does come. And if they're distracted, it doesn't really work well. So waiting until you have their full attention is really important. And that goes back to what I said at the beginning, listening with our ears, eyes, and heart. So that heart piece. You can feel it when you have it. So make sure you're giving that to your child as well. All right, so that comes to the end of what I have to present. Compassionate communication, the most effective way to express yourself and connect with those you want to communicate with. It's through compassion and empathetic language focused on meeting the needs of everyone, not just our own needs, but the needs of those we're communicating with. And here are those resources that I mentioned. I'm going to put these in the chat. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Sherry. That is just, all this information is super informative. And I noticed that when I breathed, it did relax me. And I think that I need to be in that state even before I approach my child, because I get so worked up and I'm so tense, and I'm coming to them with that. And so that breathing was just, it was a reminder of like, I need to come with that presence so that my child feels safe to come to that presence with me in that space. So that was super helpful. I'm going to share my screen and continue on. I wanted to let our parents know we have, with the Blue Ridge Academy, a monthly book club. And I just wanted to highlight last month, or actually this month, March 14th, I believe, we were able to talk about a book, actually 3 books, and they help with communication. And I just feel like both of these coincided with each other. And I wanted to be able to mention that they are available. We have a recording, and we have Shannon Eves, one of our family liaisons, who walked us through some of the concepts of these 2 books, or these 3 books. How to talk so so kids will listen, and listen so and listen so kids will talk. The same thing with teens, because you may have littles or you may have teenagers. I read the teenage one for me because I have teenagers, and it was really informative, but I really feel like some of those concepts they got from the children's section. So I think both of them are just as good and impactful, just depending on where you're at with your families in regards to their age. Another book, which I felt was so impactful for me, was one called Crucial Conversations. This one I felt was really helpful in communicating maybe with adults. I would even say like parent to teacher. I would even say parent to parent, as you all and your spouses in your homes kind of connect and discuss how and converse on how we train and teach our children. These are great books. And so I just wanted to let you know on this slide, there is the links to the recording. As well as that top link, you can look at all of the other book clubs that we've talked about, and they're very, very beneficial. So I wanted to highlight those book clubs and the recordings that are available that you can look through, their slides, that would be informative, just as informative as Sherry's. And again, we just want to partner together. We have a lot of different things that are coming around, and we want to make sure that it's to support our families and make sure they feel supported. We will have a time for Q&A if you have any questions. Let me make sure. Yes, the chat has the resources there. Thank you, Shannon, for putting that there. We will have a chance for Q&A time, but as we get to that, I really want to thank you for joining us, for being part of this. If you are watching this recording, thank you for listening in and engaging with us in that way. This last slide indicates we have a virtual events survey. And we just want to make sure that we are doing our best to service our families. So you could take a picture with a QR code. You can click here on the link. I believe Shannon can put that in the chat as far as the survey is concerned. So you're welcome to click on that. We'd love to hear your feedback. These E3 sessions, our book clubs, the things that we do are not for us. They are for you. We want to make sure our families feel listened to, feel supported. And so whatever we can do to make that happen, these surveys will be helpful in doing so. Also at the bottom of the slide is our E3 Parent Summit, all of our sessions that we've done in the prior years. We've been doing this for 3 years, and we are just so elated at all of the HSTs and speakers that we've had, such as Sherry, to come and share from their heart, share what they're passionate about, and really impact us in the same time. So we really thank you so much for participating and coming alongside. I will be stopping the recording as we enter into the Q&A time, but thank you again for visiting with us and being part of our E3 Parent Summit. Next month, we will be talking about transitioning our promotion, our middle schoolers into high school. So if you need support in that, we are happy to support you. And it's navigating high school with your student. So if that's something that engages you, we invite you to be part of that as well next month. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.